Hey there, Michael Leckie is part of my series on health, well-being, and leadership. I want to address a question that's come up from the audience, from our listeners or viewers, about the injection of medication. There are two medications that I currently inject. I inject tirzepatide, which is a GLP-1 medication for weight loss, and I inject that actually in belly and a little bit of belly fat there. Fortunately, because the tirzepatide, there's not a lot there, but generally you can always find a little bit. I inject testosterone. I do testosterone replacement therapy, and I inject that into the muscles of my upper arm, so I do an intramuscular injection there. And people have asked, don't you hate sticking yourself with needles? I guess at one point before I did it on a regular basis, now I do it 3 times a week, but I've learned something about that. The first thing I've learned is that you get used to it pretty quickly. The second thing I've learned is that these needles are pretty small and there's really very little discomfort in doing it. But it's getting over it the first time. There's something, at least for me, about physically taking a sharp metal needle and going punk and punching it into your own flesh that is off-putting. Now, some people might be happy with that. They may be perfectly happy with it. But for this case, I want to say that most people don't like needles. But you will get used to it really quickly. And it's very simple procedures. The doctor that I work with provides me with the little alcohol swabs that I need. So when I take out the vial, I swab the top of it off. I swab the part of my body that I'm going to go ahead and inject in. I get out the needle, I put it in, I get the right amount out, flick the air out, put that back in, and then I go ahead and just take the needle and punch it into my arm or hold and punch it into my stomach area. Now, the one I use for the tirzepatide, because it's a very thin liquid injection, it's not viscous at all, is a really tiny needle used for people taking insulin. Honestly, it's so small that most of the time, believe it or not, when I actually stick the needle in and it pierces the flesh, I don't actually feel it. It's just so small, almost like a mosquito bite or something. You don't really feel it until after it's happened, right? So that's a really easy one. Now, the needle for the testosterone, because it's a very viscous liquid, usually it's suspended in like grapeseed oil or something, it's much slower to draw out and slower to go in, and it requires a larger, bore or gauge needle. For that, I poke it in and I feel a little, pinch as it goes in, and then I aspirate, pull back on a little bit to make sure I haven't hit any blood vessels at all. And then I go ahead and push the plunger slowly down and push it into my arm. Do I feel any discomfort? There's a slight bit of discomfort that I kind of ignore right now when you pop the needle in, a very slight little momentary pinch pain that's over with. Sometimes when I'm injecting, I feel it going a little bit more and it feels a little bit sore. And I have had 1 or 2 moments when, for whatever reason, it's left a little bit of residual soreness. I would say that is probably less than 5% of the time. Not very often. Every few months I have that. Maybe I poked it in the exact same injection site that I used earlier in the week. I don't really know, but generally it's not a problem at all. And I have found that I get used to the injections. I got used to the injections quite quickly, and it's never bothered me since. It's just kind of a part of my routine. I do this on Thursday afternoons. I do the testosterone, and on Monday mornings I do the testosterone and the tirzepatide. And it's pretty easy. So for those of you who have a fear of needles or are worried about it, what I would say is you'll get over it. It's worth it. And both of these medications have helped me a great deal from my perspective. And I am happy that I've taken both of them. And I don't find dealing with the needles or the injections to be a problem at all. Self-administering is very easy. So I hope that was useful for those of you who had the questions about, is it really hard to stick yourself with a needle? Nah, it's not really that hard. You get used to it quite quick. Well, this is Michael Leckie, my series about health and well-being and leadership, and I hope that was useful to you. Again, feel free to subscribe and follow, and love talking to you, and have a great day.